ruin our day. Darn it. 13 people waiting, and I don't think we're going out to that for some reason. So strange. Online there. Let's see. Jimmy, JoAnne, how are you guys? Okay, we're live here on YouTube. Don't know what happened there, but how are you two?
Good.
We're doing okay, Jason.
Still
Great to see you.
Yeah.
You too. I'm fresh back from Bosnia for people who might have missed the Sunday with Charles episode yesterday. Charles and I were checking out downtown Sarajevo, but we want to talk about another war-torn country, a little bit more up to date, but kind of taken from the same mold, isn't that right?
Yeah, the thing that we noticed, all of us that saw the Olympics in Sarajevo saw what a pretty little country that was, and the terrain is gorgeous. It was really a neat place, and seeing what it is now, it's just destroyed, and the buildings that were rebuilt, of course, they're not the same. They may be plastic fantastic now instead of the old 300 or 400-year-old buildings like they used to be, and it really reminded us in a real deep, hurtful manner that these places that the United States, the Khazarian mafia, has gone in and blown up, they destroy them, and they really never, ever get back to the shape they were in before all the people that represent us went in there and destroyed them. And it's hurtful. And the things that are left, the progress that those countries had made, and their industrialization and their cottage industries and all those things went away, and they were replaced with corruption. And that was very painfully evident in seeing your tour of Sarajevo. And of course, for us, it struck a real hard note, because that's what we saw in Libya. Libya was a developing country. It was the most developed country in Africa, highest standard of living. The country had no debt. The people had no debt. They were building. It was really a neat place, and they were still in the throes of full-fledged development. But the government was building condominiums. There were 620,000 new condominiums under construction for the people of Libya in 2011. Those have been destroyed. And tonight we're going to cover the city of Sirte. Sirte was the homeland of the Gaddafi tribe, and Gaddafi is the name of that tribe. And it's not a huge tribe in Libya, but it was always one of the most progressives. And Sirte was built really from the ground up. It had been a little tiny two horse or two camel town, and it was a thriving city of about 300,000. Everything modern, every building had been built in the last 30 or 40 years, and it was completely destroyed. The U.S. used fuel air explosives, which are poor man's nuclear type weapons. It destroys everything above the ground, and it's just massive destruction. And Sirte, for all practical purposes, was wiped out. And Sirte was to further put salt in the wounds of the Libyans, the CIA decided to use Sirte as their control center for all of Libya. And they went in there, and after JoAnne and I were responsible for having their biggest training center in Derna.
There's another
set
map,
down.
Jason, excuse me. There's another map with Sirte on it.
Yeah.
Just Sirte. No, not that one. It's kind of a long map.
Oh, right, this one.
Yeah, that's Sirte.
There's Sirte.
You see Tripoli to the left. Sirte is a port in itself, yeah.
And so the CIA went in there and built this huge training center and built 13 mansions for the Muslim Brotherhood and ISIS leaders, the top leaders in the world. That's where their homeland was going to be. And they had these big compounds, servants' quarters, absolutely 6-star facilities. And
we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about what happened to Sirte, what happened to the people, who took it over next after the terrorists left, and then more terrorists moved in, and what is happening right now. There's Libya is moving ahead, and we want to talk about that in our show, about what's happening in Tripoli, about the ISIS in the south, about the U.S. sending their reconnaissance planes in to supposedly hunt out ISIS in the south, and also AFRICOM bombing ISIS in the south. There's some other things we're going to talk about. We want to talk about Yemen a little bit, because that's a big story. And
but on Syria, we've got videos actually of U.S. troops on the ground in Syria fighting with Al Qaeda and Muslim Brotherhood.
Fighting with them, not against them.
Fighting with them.
We have video of U.S. snipers with Al Qaeda there shooting into Syria, and other ones fighting with tanks and stuff with Al Qaeda, because Al Qaeda and the terrorist mercenaries were what NATO brought in to take over the country, and so the U.S. troops were fighting with those mercenaries. There were even there were articles put out. The guy's name was Hassini, I think. He was fighting in the front lines in Afghanistan against the United States, and he said many of our fighters are here now fighting with the United States. That was put out in an article in the Telegraph during 2011. So that's who we were fighting with, and we know that because those are the same guys that captured us in Tripoli, being supported by NATO.
Wow.
So,
and when you guys when you're referring to our show, you're talking, of course, about the Patreon and Subscribestar sponsor exclusive show that's going to be starting in just about 25 minutes on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We really like doing these YouTube and Periscope and Facebook updates to let everybody know that the shows are happening each week, Monday night, normally at 8 p.m. Eastern. I really appreciate your flexibility with the timing tonight, Jimmy and JoAnne, but I want to encourage people to go over to Patreon and become sponsors of Jimmy and JoAnne's page over there. It's very important that viewers of Crowdsource the Truth sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne. People who've been watching us for the past several months are aware that you guys are the only known people to have escaped from the clutches of Al Qaeda, and people can go to your webpage, LibyanWarTheTruth.com, purchase the DVD Escape from Al Qaeda. It's a $15 DVD, and sponsors at patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty get free shipping on the DVD. That's an exclusive benefit to Jimmy and JoAnne's sponsors. I wanted to ask Jimmy about one of the things that you just mentioned about a CIA compound being built there. We mentioned earlier the trip to Sarajevo. Didn't show this in the episode of Sunday with Charles, but there's a U.S. embassy in Sarajevo, and you can see it right here. Basically, everyone there said that this is not an embassy, but a CIA compound, and it certainly looks like more of a military installation than a diplomatic one. What do we think about that?
Is there a U.S. flag on it, Jason?
I didn't see one, but it had a sign that said embassy.
And it's not an embassy. It's not an embassy. It's a safe house.
Well, yeah, we know for a fact there were 29 training centers in Libya. We know that because a man that works for the other government services, OGS, as an electrician, wired those 29 training centers that were in remote areas all over Libya. After those 29 training centers were built, the largest one was built in Derna, which is the far east side, northeast side of Libya. And when we outed that one within 3 days, and we outed that to the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, when their agent was in our home, we gave him latitude and longitude of where it was, and within 3 days, the CIA and Mossad ordered the evacuation of that whole big, huge training center. And they moved everybody out of that training center actually into the southwestern part of Libya into Algeria. And then when the CIA and Mossad built a new training center, it was built in Sirte.
Our friend.
This is the guy, right? That's the DIA
guy that got the information from us.
Yeah, he was in our home many times.
We've
and
spoken
really
about
within
him
3 to 5 days.
He was with the DIA.
Yeah. And they built a new training center in Sirte after Sirte had been destroyed. I mean, they killed everything, including every cockroach in Sirte. It was just a complete destruction.
Was he when he came to our house?
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
he?
yeah.
I thought he had some here.
No.
It's really very sad to
It's
know
really very
that
sad to know that
our country is
our
going around the
country
world
is going
doing
around the world
all this
doing
destruction. Could you
all
guys
this
turn the
destruction.
volume
Could
down
you guys
over there a
turn the
little bit?
volume down
We've got a
over
big
there?
echo happening.
Got a big echo.
Sorry.
Sorry.
That's
Okay.
my fault. We usually have more of a start time beforehand. You know, it's interesting. This place is listed as the U.S. Embassy in Sarajevo. I did not see a flag on it, so it's another one of these things that doesn't appear in 3D on Google Earth. So that's an interesting thing. But I mean, they got a satellite on the roof of it there. That's something. Everybody seems to know it was the CIA.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's common knowledge.
Locals know that. It's a terrible thing that the representatives that we've elected have so abused our trust in them and allowed the foreign-owned military-industrial complex to spill the best blood we've got in foreign locations for no good reason, for benefit of foreign corporations, and we've destroyed. I can't tell you how many millions of people U.S. is responsible for killing and destroying, but the countries themselves destroyed. Fuel air explosives, depleted uranium.
Institutions are destroyed. Hospitals are destroyed. Water supplies,
and
power
the incidents of deformed babies, like Iraq is full of all these deformed babies. Libya, in the big hospital in Libya, this was in 2011, they were having 50 miscarriages a day. They didn't have 2 a year in all of Libya before that. So, those kinds of non-declared victims of these wars is terrible, and the deformities come from the depleted uranium is some of the nastiest radioactivity anybody can get into, and it's completely outlawed. Yet every weapon the United States uses, every bullet, every rocket, every mortar is headed with depleted uranium, and it's real hard. And when it explodes, it throws these little tiny particles everywhere. They penetrate everything, and then you've got a 50,000 year half-life on the depleted uranium. So it's real nasty stuff.
Well, the guy that gave us we went to a company to get a Geiger counter. They asked us to bring one into Libya in 2011 on the fact-finding commission. And the guy that ran that company, or one of the people that worked for that company, told us, they said, everywhere NATO has been, the United States has been, he said, we can see it. It lights up on the map like Chinese New Year.
He said all the dogs and kids in the neighborhood glow in the dark. And he said every place the U.S. has been, he said, when you look on a world map, the places that are hot spots that we can see from satellites are where the depleted uranium that the U.S. has deployed in all those countries.
This really makes no sense to me, because it's a huge detriment to U.S. servicemen and women as well. This is thought to be part of a cause of...
Like Agent Orange.
Sorry, JoAnne?
Like Agent Orange.
Absolutely. It's thought to be a major cause of the Gulf War syndrome.
That's right.
Listen, Jason, they are cutting back on medical benefits for our veterans and extending the benefits for illegals in this country. That doesn't make sense, and that has got to stop. The people here that makes no sense. We have no respect for our military, and they give up their lives, liberty, to help us. And then we, the people, with these criminals in Washington, D.C., have no respect for our military. They're taking their benefits away from them, trying to take their weapons away from them. They're trying to declare them insane, force them to take injections of aluminum or mercury stuff, which are guaranteed to kill them. And in the meantime, an illegal comes in here, an absolute criminal that crosses our border, violates our laws, and they're given immediate benefits 3 or 4 times what our military gets. Yeah. That's just not acceptable. That's got to stop.
Makes no sense at all. We're getting close to the end of our time here, and we're going to be starting up at 9 p.m. Eastern on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. JoAnne, can you give us just a quick overview of what people can expect to see on the show at 9 p.m.?
At 9 p.m., we're going to start talking about Libya on the ground right now. What's happening? We're going to talk about Sirte being taken back by the Libyan people. We're going to talk about what happened in Sirte, the history of it. We're going to show pictures. We have videos of some of the fighting on the ground that nobody has seen. These are videos we couldn't put on YouTube. They'd be taken down immediately. That we're going to talk about ISIS in southern Libya. We're going to talk about the terrorists that are in southern Libya
right now.
We're going to talk about who controls what parts of Libya. We have a map of that. And we're going to talk about Yemen a little bit and some more Libyan stuff when we get to it.
Absolutely.
The drones that Turkey has taken there.
Yeah, and it's important that people understand that, there's been a lot of talk lately about how social media is being used to suppress information like this, and we're making an effort to try to bring this information to people, but it's got to be done through means other than YouTube and Facebook and some of the biggest tech giants that have been suppressing this type of information. So we really hope that people will join us on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be starting up there in less than 15 minutes, so we'll see everybody there. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Jimmy and JoAnne, I'll be back with you in just a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.